So the most common question that we get is, do you make portals for fill in the blank? And most of the time the answer is no. And the reason it's no is that if you go on our website, you'll see that the packages that we make are vehicle specific packages where our intent is to ship you a pallet and you can put your vehicle on jack stands. You can take off your original equipment. By that I mean in the front, your steering knuckles, uprights, in the rear, your axle shafts, and then you can bolt on everything that we sent you on the pallet and you can drive off and hit the trails, and it's completely plug and play. ABS still works. Your brakes are gonna, your OE brakes work with this, and you're not gonna have any lights on the dash. So the reason we probably don't make a kit for your vehicle is that it takes quite an investment to make that vehicle specific kit. So, we've started out with Jeep, we've done a couple of Ford platforms. We went into Toyota. We're still working our way through Toyota. We're working on second gen Tundra and LC200 right now. Actually, we're in the prototype phase. And we've really done what we think are going to be the biggest sellers based on what we actually see on the trail and the feedback that we get from people just asking for things. Like LC200, that was for a long time the big one that everyone was asking us for. So, because it has a lot of crossover to other platforms, that ends up kind of being a no-brainer. But when it comes to something like, say, a 1976 Chevy Scottsdale, we're frankly probably never going to develop portals for that. And again, what I mean by that is we are not going to develop a vehicle-specific kit for that vehicle. So where you can take off the steering knuckles and just completely bolt everything on. The reason that I bring this up is that I personally would love to see portals on a 1976 Chevy Scottsdale or whatever cool old solid axle vehicle. And I think that there are people who have contacted us who have, kind of tested the waters on, well, just because you don't have a vehicle specific kit for me, does that really mean that you don't have portals for me? And this is a good point because, for one thing, we have our crawler platform. If you really want to go all out, we'll sell you everything from the C out, and you can fabricate your own axles and figure it all out and build your own suspension off of that. That's one way to go. That's probably, if you have an off-road only vehicle and you really want to ball out, that's a really good way to go. For solid axle stuff, I bring this up because we recently did our video on our Curry axle package, which those are all vehicle specific. JK, JL, JT, direct bolt in, everything's figured out for you. Your ABS plugs in, your brakes plug in, you're good to go. Curry axles, tried and true. That is built around an 05 Super Duty N. So what I'm saying here is that if you're familiar with something like the 05 Super Duty N, that axle has been it's been fabricated into just about every vehicle there is out there. That maybe not newer vehicles, but axle swaps are actually pretty darn common. There's even like WFO does a kit for Tacomas. So I'm kind of dancing around that. If you have an older solid axle vehicle, just because we don't make a vehicle specific kit for you doesn't necessarily mean that you are boxed out of our portals. So something like the Curry package, if you called them and asked them nicely, they might make you a clean tube version. When you look at something, roundabout way of saying, like, if you can work around a solid axle platform that we already make and do the vehicle integration, and we don't actually have to develop that's a really viable way to go. When you look at the websites of Curry, Dynatrac, TerraFlex, East Coast Gear Supply, Fusion, Busted Knuckle, Busted Knuckle, they'll build you a 14 bolt with 05 ends for like $1,000. It's pretty cool. But you're going to see on their websites, they already have bracket kits for a lot of these vehicles, or if you ask nicely, again, they might build you a clean tube version of something. And if you're willing to figure out steering, or have someone figure out steering and suspension integration, something like an old pickup truck, I think it would be very cool to see somebody have that on clean tube Curry package with, leaf spring purchase welded on. And so I wanted to bring this up just to point out that just because we don't make a vehicle specific kit for your solid axle vehicle doesn't mean that with a little bit of creativity and motivation, you can't make it happen. And personally, I would love to see someone make it happen. I would love to see a 76 Chevy Scottsdale on portals, just getting sideways, pivoting around rocks on 40s. So, hopefully if there's someone out there who's willing to do cool stuff, and if you are, hit us down below in the comments, send us an email, give us a call. We can walk you through, how the specifics of these axle packages, and, how you could make basically the specifics of how our portal integrates to the axle. Like, we're not the ones actually building these housings, but we can tell you, like, here's how to get custom axle shafts. Here's where the steering points are. I mean, if you're serious, we can send you CAD and you can do your own suspension design off of it for something like this. So, we want to see cool stuff. We hope you guys do too. And again, hit us down below in the comments. And we'll see you next time.